Most people around here really don't realize what a unique and wonderful system they have here. It's really a blessing. It's probably one of the most unique water supplies in the country. It's just, probably the envy of just about any community you'll find.
Ada has derived its drinking water from the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer since 1912 in the form of Bird's Mill Spring, a natural fountain of some of the purest water anywhere. In fact, many communities in southern Oklahoma depend on the aquifer, including Durant, Tishomingo, Davis, and Ardmore.
Well, that's our total lifeline. I mean, you can talk about economic development and you can talk about enhancement, but it's where our water source comes from. I mean, that's what we drink and that's what we bathe, that's how we live, it's how we exist.
A group of communities in central Oklahoma is now looking at the possibility of drawing water from the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer, a proposal that does not sit well with many local residents, primarily because a comprehensive study has not yet been done on the aquifer. The central Oklahoma communities have approached several landowners near the aquifer about buying water. Communities have proposed pumping 70,000 acre-feet of water per year from the aquifer. That translates to roughly 23 billion gallons.
Right now the law is set up so that each landowner gets 2 acre-feet for each acre of land they have. That's a temporary permit. But we know if each landowner used up 2 acre-feet per acre, that's 5 times as much as what's recharged to the land each year.
A very, very small percentage of the water that comes out of that aquifer is pumped. Only about 2% it's estimated. And if you now take 70,000 acre-feet of water out, that's almost a 30-fold increase in the amount of water that's being pumped.
Private landowners who have water rights to the aquifer have the option of selling their share of the water if they see fit. Since no definitive study on the aquifer has been completed, the question is, how much is their fair share?
The landowner owns the water under his land, but the state tells him how much he can pump out of it. And that is the problem, is how much can he pump without pumping his neighbor's water. He has a water right, but his neighbor has just as much of a water right, and his neighbor may not want all that water used up.
The central Oklahoma communities have proposed building an 88-mile pipeline from the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer to a point in Canadian County. From there, the communities would share the water. The pipeline itself would be expensive to build and may not serve as a permanent solution.
I would think it would be almost impossible to get that project financed because they're going to have to issue bonds, and the bond underwriters, I would think, would think twice about underwriting such a project, and investors would think twice about buying bonds on something that can change in a couple of years.
The only people that's going to make money on this deal is the people that's putting in the $200 million pipeline. The landowners are going to make some money out of it, but not anything like the hydrologists they've employed. And then they're only looking at the tip of the iceberg. They've got to pay, if they put the pipeline in, they've got to pay the expense to moving that water 88 miles, and it's essentially uphill, so it's not going to be cheap. And then when they get it, then they're going to have to purify it and clean it up because it's been in the pipe. And it's just, the $200 million is just the beginning.
Many feel that pumping that much water through the pipeline may end up costing central Oklahoma more money than expected, while at the same time harming the aquifer.
If you start pumping, you start mixing those waters together, or pulling waters where they haven't been before. And you don't know what you might pull the bad water in with the good and get it all mixed up and ruin it for everybody. Every gallon of water that's pumped out of the aquifer is 1 less gallon that's available to flow down Blue River, Bird's Mill Spring, Pennington Creek, and so on.
Water's going to become more valuable. Water's going to become more costly, but that's not to say that gives them the right to come into this part of the state and drain our water source.
The Oklahoma Water Resources Board is responsible for figuring the average maximum yield of every aquifer in the state. So far, that yield hasn't been determined for the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer. A 5-year, $2.7 million study has been proposed to determine the yield. Such a study will examine groundwater supply and recharge rates. To date, the only studies made of the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer have focused on surface water.
There's been one study by the U.S. Geological Survey back in 1990 or so, and that's the latest that we have, and it's incomplete. It doesn't really cover everything that needs to be covered, and I think a study is vitally important in order to make the determination of whether and how much water can be withdrawn so it's fair to all the users.
There's all kinds of studies. There have been studies on it, but I liken it kind of like if you brought a guy in to the emergency room after he had a bad car wreck. You know, a doctor can look at him and say, you know, he's got a broken arm, he's got a broken leg, you know, he might have some broken ribs. But he's not going to start operating on him until he takes some x-rays and knows exactly what's happening to him.
How much water can Ada take? How much water can the landowner take? How much can be sold? Because it's like the goose that laid the golden egg. If we drain that aquifer down there, we're all going to be up the creek without a paddle.
Those working to protect the Arbuckle Simpson aquifer believe a comprehensive study will benefit all parties involved. Whether there is plenty of water in the aquifer or even less than some fear, the point is to find out exactly what is there before moving forward with the sale of water.
Oklahoma's water laws can be, have been, and will be changed. But the laws of physics cannot be changed. You know, nature has only put so much water there and only replenish it at a certain rate. And it doesn't make any difference what the law is or what you want to say about the law. There's only so much available, and that's the way it is.
Until the study is completed, the controversy will continue. One thing is certain: if the aquifer is pumped dry, nobody wins.
It's everyone's need to protect that water, protect the quality and the quantity of that water.
I think we're really fortunate in this situation because the damage hasn't been done yet. You know, you can go all over the country and see where, you know, through just ignorance and greed or whatever, water supplies have been ruined forever. It hasn't occurred here yet, and we have the opportunity to manage the water in an appropriate way that you know, our grandkids and their grandkids will enjoy it like we do.